All right, so today we're going to be talking about um, kind of how Abraham Lincoln's election really led to the actual beginning of the Civil War. Your assignment today is pretty straightforward. It's just read the passage and then answer the questions. Unfortunately, that's how we have to roll in this situation. So, what we're going to, I'd rather have you do is go ahead and either get started right away if you want. You can stop me. Or if you like it when I read to you, then once again, we'll do the same thing we've been doing. I will read you a part. You can pause it, answer the questions. I'll read you the next part, pause it, answer the questions. You will notice, guys, that at the end of the readings and questions, there's a map. You kind of want to pay attention to that map. There is a test question at the end of, or at the on this unit where that map comes into play. So you want to make sure that you kind of take a second to look at it, know which states are on which side, kind of thing. Finally, the very last slide is a timeline. All you need to do is just pull out 8 events from these documents or these events and put them in order. Okay, so these are divided up into 5 events. I'm asking you to pull out 8. So these 5 events are kind of big events. You can go ahead and pull kind of 8 mini events from these big 5 events and put in there. Once again, if you have any questions, I'll be on big blue button. If you want to work on your own, then go ahead and stop it now. If you want the assistance with me reading, then I'm going to start right now. So it says the path leading to the Civil War. Many events led to the Civil War. The final catalyst occurred when Abraham Lincoln was elected president. We have is a detailed look into the events leading to his presidency. So event number 1 is the Lincoln-Douglas debates. The Lincoln-Douglas debates were a series of formal political debates between the challenger Abraham Lincoln and the incumbent Stephen A. Douglas in a campaign for one of Illinois' 2 United States Senate seats. Although Lincoln lost the election, these debates launched him into national fame, which eventually led to him becoming president of the United States. Lincoln and Douglas agreed to debate in 7 of the 9 Illinois congressional districts, the 7 where Douglas had not already spoken. In each debate, either Douglas or Lincoln would open with an hour address. The other would then speak for an hour and a half. The first then had a 30-minute rebuttal. In the 7 debates, Douglas, as an incumbent, was allowed to go first 4 times. The spectators came from all over Illinois, nearby states, by train, by canal boat, by wagon, by buggy, and on horseback. They briefly swelled the populations of the towns that hosted the debates. The audience participated by shouting questions, cheering the participants as if they were prize fighters, applauding and laughing. The debates attracted tens of thousands of voters, and newspaper reporters came from across the nation. Topics of the debates included all the critical issues dividing the nation: slavery versus free labor, popular sovereignty, Western territories, states' rights, and the legal and political status of Black Americans. Go ahead, guys, and you can pause and then answer those questions on that slide. When you are done, go ahead and hit play again. Okay, hopefully you are finished. So let's move on to event number 2, which is the Lincoln election. In the presidential election of 1860, the big question was whether the Union would continue to exist. Regional differences divided the nation. The issue of slavery split the Democratic Party. Northern Democrats supported popular sovereignty. They nominated Stephen Douglas. Southern Democrats vowed to uphold slavery. Their candidate's name was John C. Breckinridge. Moderates from the North and South formed the Constitutional Union Party. The Constitutional Unionists took no position on slavery. They chose John Bell as their candidate. The Republicans nominated Abraham Lincoln. They wanted to leave slavery alone where it existed, but also ban it in all the territories. Still, white Southerners feared that a Republican victory would promote slave revolts, as well as interfere with the institution of slavery itself. With the Democrats divided, Lincoln won a clear majority of electoral votes. Voting followed along regional lines. Lincoln's name did not even appear on the ballot in most of the southern states. He won every northern state, however. So in effect, the more populous North just outvoted the South. The South came to the conclusion that they would now be outvoted in every future election and that the institution of slavery was doomed. Effigies of Lincoln were burned in the South, and Southern newspapers vilified him. It didn't take long for more drastic measures to be taken. Go ahead and pause, answer those questions. When you're ready, you can hit play again, and we'll move on to Event 3. Okay, Event 3 is the first secession. It says, Republicans had promised not to stop slavery where it already existed. Yet, the white Southerners did not trust the Republicans to protect their rights. On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina voted to secede from the Union. In other Southern states, leaders debated the question of secession or withdrawal from the Union. By February of 1861, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia joined South Carolina and seceded. Delegates from the states met to form a new nation, calling themselves the Confederate States of America. They chose Jefferson Davis as their president. Southerners used the theory of states' rights to justify their secession. Each state, they argued, had voluntarily chosen to enter the Union, therefore they can voluntarily choose to leave. People in the South rejoiced at the formation of the Confederacy. Church bells rang, and some people celebrated in the streets. Most people in the North thought that the Union should be preserved at all costs. This is also what Lincoln thought as he was sworn in as the 16th president. Go ahead, pause this, answer the questions for that slide. Okay, hopefully we're back now, and we're moving on to Event 4, which is Fort Sumter. The day after taking office, Lincoln received a message from the commander of Fort Sumter, a U.S. fort in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. The message warned that the U.S. Fort was low on supplies and that the Confederates demanded its surrender. When the Southern states seceded, federal property such as forts stayed in the hand of the North. Lincoln responded to that message by saying that he will be sending an unarmed group to the fort with supplies. President Jefferson Davis orders his forces to attack Fort Sumter before the Union supplies could arrive. Confederate guns opened fire on April 12, 1861. The Northerners in the fort held on for 2 days. Facing a hopeless situation, the Union surrendered the fort on April 14th. Despite a heavy bombardment, 3,000 shells, no one died on either side. Generally, Fort Sumter is considered the beginning of the Civil War. Go ahead and pause, and we'll move on to the last section. As soon as you're done, hit play. Okay, the second secession is the title for Event 5. It says, with the loss of Fort Sumter, Lincoln decided he had to act. He issued a call for troops. Thousands of volunteers from across the North quickly signed up. In reaction to Lincoln's call, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas voted to join the Confederacy. Now a total of 11 states had left the United States, and the Civil War had begun. There were only 4 slave states that didn't join the Confederacy. They were known as border states and included Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware. Later, during the war, West Virginia is established as a state and is considered a border state as well. So guys, you have 11 Confederate states and you have these 4, later 5 kind of border states. The border states are interesting because there are people who lived in those states that fought on both sides, right? They're literally located along the border of North and South. All of those states were slave territories, but a lot of these states, even though they had slaves, really still believed in the United States and didn't really want to leave. So there's more on this later as we continue on the Civil War, but the border states play a very important role in the war as a whole. Remember, guys, fill out that timeline right after all the questions and submit when you're finished. And if you have any questions, as always, I will be on Big Blue Button.